So here we go with Dick Sargent, Agnes Moorehead, Elizabeth Montgomery. Grandmama is here. I wonder, because Liz and Agnes make it look not only so natural, but so classy, so excellent, so natural, as if they've been doing it forever. But props to Dick. Watch this. Dick is going to be full-blown dunking his head in that nasty green-looking water. Look at that. So this is clearly the end of the day. Oh, I got to talk about that. And Dora just called her mother. Oh, great mother of us all. Anyway, there's just a huge difference between them. Elspeth, the nanny, there were a couple that didn't end in an A. Again, you know, you would think at the table read, someone would say, they're supposed to end in an A, let's change it. Someone didn't care enough. Again, they don't. When you're there, because I've done this, you just don't care as much as we care. They don't care as much as we care. They're just happy to get a show on.
Bewitched, bewitched, you've got me in your spell.
Let's chat about Bewitched. And let's get ready to go to Salem. We are beginning the Salem saga in season 7 of Bewitched. And you know, here on Bewitched Chat, this is the first time we're seeing that kitchen. What do you think of that new set? Do you like it?
It doesn't matter.
I can't get jiggy with it. That's just me. I'll tell you a weird thing that I learned, like maybe in the last 10 years that as you know, I study this stuff. I just look at it. Do you know those stairs are fake behind her? In other words, they're real stair, real stair, real stair. But then when it turns, they're this wide, and then this wide, and then this wide, and then this wide. And then they're just pieces of straight wood. There are no stairs there. They're using forced perspective to make it look like stairs. And of course, now we can't see it. But I just find that fascinating. So as you go forward, if you ever see anybody walking down those stairs, which they do every now and then, they're always starting right kind of where it turns. They're always starting like 3 stairs up, because above that is nothing. Because that would be the hallway set, you know, that kind of goes to the back door to the garage and all that stuff. So you'll see it when we get there. Okay, so here we go with Dick Sargent, Agnes Moorehead, Elizabeth Montgomery. Grandmama is here. Agnes is in a good mood. I'm sorry. And Dora is in a good mood. Darrin is concerned. Samantha says, just roll with it. And then she's concerned. Okay, so let's do credits. All right. I love this episode. It's going to be one of my favorites. I love Jane Cannell. And yes, that's how you say it. It's not Connell, it's Cannell. Very famous Broadway actress. All right, let's talk about it. It was shot on July 23rd, 1970. It aired September 24th, 1970. So welcome to a new decade where Dick Sargent has his feet wet. He's in there. Will Asher directed it. Michael Morris did a brilliant job of casting it. And this is where Samantha is called to Salem, Massachusetts for the Witches Council and all that goes on. There's a lot to talk about this in a good way. Did I say everything? Oh, no, the title. The name of this episode, these names just never make sense to me. But to this day, that's how scripts are. Writers will just put weird names. Sometimes it's almost a contest to see who can come up with the weirdest name for the script. No one ever sees them. They're never, well, I don't want to say never, because it's not never. They're rarely in the credits, in the opening credits, in the closing credits, so it's just kind of an in-house thing. And then something like this where people write books about it and do videos about it and all that stuff. But anyway, this is called To Go or Not to Go. That is the question, part 1. And then weirdly, the next one, which we'll do right after this one, is called Salem Here We Come, part 2. So they're breaking rules right there. Part 1 and part 2 have 2 different titles, so go figure. But who cares? It's an awesome episode. Okay, so this is really cool. I think it's the first time we ever hear Agnes sing, right? Am I wrong? Does she ever sing? She's upstairs singing, "Dear little buttercup, dear little buttercup, dear little buttercup." Woo! How'd I do? And so she's in a really good mood, and Darrin is like worried. Why is she in a good mood? Really good, clever writing here. In my opinion, I don't know if you think this. There she goes. By the way, I think these 2 episodes are Dick Sargent's best. I think Dick is at his best in the whole run of the show in these 2 episodes. I think he just has a really good balance of how he's playing these. So There's Agnes in her caftan. Is that what they're called? Caftans, I think. Moo-moos. I don't know what they're called, but or things. Which I always wonder if like she insisted on wearing that because as someone who hates, you've heard me say before, hair, makeup, and wardrobe stuff because you don't have to think about it. The great thing about wearing that is you never have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about bulges showing. You don't have to be worried about it. Anything looking bad. I mean, it's just like there. Okay, so I got to say that just by the way Agnes did that with the thing, I'm just always so impressed with the magic choreography, for a lack of a better way of saying it. Now, I have no idea. I've never heard if they called it back then, but you probably know. I mean, I certainly know that if you ever watched anything on behind the scenes of Harry Potter, I know we're jumping decades, they actually had choreography. They actually had lessons on how, so it was very consistent. And so everyone would use their wands the same way. Like I remember seeing it behind the scenes things with them. And when they use their wands in Harry Potter, they're actually supposed to look like they're throwing something. That's why, it's not just, sometimes there is swish and flick, swish and flick. But in general, they're supposed to use their wands as if they're throwing something. I wonder, because Liz and Agnes make it look not only so natural, but so classy, so excellent, so natural as if they've been doing it forever, so not forced, all that stuff. So they just do such a good job at it. I just wonder that. If someone, because if there was someone, and that someone may have been Liz, let's face it. And if you remember, like in the pilot episode and the first few shows in season 1, that wasn't there. Like I just remember in the pilot when she like changed the kitchen, she just kind of went like this. It was very mamby-pamby, very unexciting. And so I just wonder, I'll bet my money on Bill, because Bill Asher, her husband, the producer, directed most of them, just knew. I mean, think about it. Again, he did the I Love Lucy's and all that stuff, and he knew, and Lucy was all about physical comedy. Not that the magic is comedy, but he knew the physicalness importance of acting. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it was him. Maybe they were sitting in their living room and said, I mean, think about it, in 1963 or 4, whatever it was. So Liz, do a couple things, because, they discovered the Twitch by mistake. Everybody knows that. That's a famous story. That's just how Liz scratched her nose in real life. She just, moved her upper lip. Of course, she's not really moving her nose. There is nothing in your nose to move. She just moved her upper lip, and he said, "Oh, I like that." And actually, now that I think about it, it was him who said to her, "I like that. Let's keep that. Let's use that as your thing." Because again, we take it so much for granted, the Twitch, but think about it. That had to be come up with. Someone had to come up with the Twitch, and it was Bill. So, boy, I'm way off track here. I wonder if someone like him said, "Fling your arms like this," or when the first couple episodes, now that we've seen them, there's something boring about the way you're doing magic. Do it this way. Do it this way. Let's try it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. And then you factor into that Liz, and I don't know if you know this, but Liz was raised in money in Manhattan. She lived in the rich part of Manhattan with rich people, which is why she is just so naturally classy. I've talked about that when you see her dancing on the Hollywood Palace, which I've used a couple of times, because she just has class. So if someone has that kind of classy gait, just by the way they walk and move themselves, it's probably natural that they have classy this. I suck at it, as you know. I've tried it a couple times, and Bewitched continues and all that stuff, and I just suck at it, though, maybe in my defense, the guys didn't have good magic moves. Magic moves? Can I call it magic moves? Because, Dr. Bombay and I think Arthur as well, all they did was go, wah. I mean, just this. That was it. Sometimes Arthur would go like this, and Maurice would do bigger moves, but it wasn't what I call the flourish. No one ever did the flourish. All right, let's get back to this episode. Wasn't planning on talking about that at all, but it just comes out. By the way, let me just say this. I know my jaws are swollen. If you saw 2 episodes ago, I'm going through a month of lots of oral surgery stuff. I'm getting 7 implants and sinus lifts and crazy stuff going on. So I look like a chipmunk. I don't look like myself, but who cares what I look like, right? But just in case you're like, why does he have those Brad Pitt things way down here? It's all dental stuff. Okay, all right, the Brad Pitt jaw, kind of thing. Why can't I be swollen up here? That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. It always happens in the jowls. All right, here we go. Let's go back to the episode. Let's have me shut up about myself. Okay, I remember when I saw this the first time, and every time I look at it, so we know Liz loved animals, right? I can't believe she's going to pick up this frog and then go on to kiss it. So Liz really liked animals, which is interesting how I just talked about how she was raised in Manhattan, and maybe that's why. Look at her. That's just nasty to me. Later, she picks up a leg of lamb with her hands. You're probably thinking, Barry, you're weird, man. And I am. I don't know. I would, if it's in the script, but this isn't just script. Look at, ooh, nasty. And look. And don't frogs bite anyway on top of everything else? I don't know. I'm a city boy. I am a city boy. I was raised in the city, went to a city school, rode a city bus downtown and all that stuff. So anyway, props to her, man. I think she dug it. She just dug with the animals. Okay, so in the story, which I know you know, but just in case, she's being summoned to Salem. She says she won't go unless, or has she even said she won't go yet? Oh, yeah, I think Darrin at this point isn't letting her go, and now Darrin's going to agree to let her go. So Andorra turned him into a frog because she won't let him go. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I did watch this one ahead of time. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll just spot check it. Sometimes I just like to live react just so I can enjoy the Bewitched chats as well. But props to Dick. Watch this. Dick is going to be full-blown dunking his head in that nasty green-looking water. Look at that. So this is clearly the end of the day. As you know, I've talked about this before. When they're getting pies in the face and whatever, that's like the last day of shooting, the last thing of the day. They actually put it on the calendar that way because clearly, I mean, it's not just his makeup and his hair. It's his clothes, his wardrobe, it's everything. So bravo to him. And, they do just a weird behind the scenes thing. They do try to use warm water. They try to make it as comfortable as they can for the actor. So in other words, this was probably shot earlier in the day, okay? Or the next day or whatever. But that tub thing was the last thing they shot before they went home. Because then Dick had to go, whatever he had to do, go to his dressing room, take off his wetsuit, things you don't maybe necessarily think of that was just nasty. A lot of times, and Bewitched when it's raining and, the rain's coming down. Now think about it. You usually, clearly they're not raining and pouring water all over the set. So there's plastic stuff everywhere. Sometimes when the rain doesn't move, it's just coming straight down. There's like a little kiddie pool there because you can't like demo your set and your carpet and everything. So again, little things like that we take for granted aren't just that little that you have to do. Okay, but really props to him. Most people would say, oh God, are you serious? I've taken dunk in that water, in that fake bathtub. Again, this is a set. So they plugged up the hole. Someone carried buckets of water there, or however they got it in there. I'm saying buckets because it probably was warm. They probably didn't just bring a hose in there and fill it up because the water would have been cold. And I'm not saying that that's never happened, but studios try not to do that because, these are your actors. These are your people that are there every day and you do try to take care of them. All right, so here we go. I just can't wait till Jane Cannell comes because I love her. And I'm going to ask you ahead of time if you remember what she looks like, but I'll wait to tell you until we see what she looks like. Who else did she play in Bewitched? because they actually change her appearance so much. I think that she's pretty unrecognizable in almost every part. To me, this is the one where she's the best, Hepzibah, and they've already talked about that. So let me talk about this because I kind of teased it previously. Okay, um, why is it a big name, a big deal that her name is Hepzibah? Hepzi, Hepzi, Bah, Why is that a big deal? Why is that breaking with tradition? Because supposedly every witch's name has to end in an A. Excuse me. Now, while it ends in the sound A, the spelling of it ends in an H, but of course she's not just a regular witch, right? Again, I can think of a couple of examples. Miss Beecham was, I think, the secretary to Maurice. The other nanny that came down, I'm doing this the wires because you could so see the wires on that one. Elsbeth the nanny. There were a couple that didn't end in an A. Again, you would think at the table read, someone would say, they're supposed to end in an A, let's change it. Someone didn't care enough. Again, they don't, when you're there, because I've done this, you just don't care as much as we care. They don't care as much as we care. They're just happy to get a show on. This is a simple episode, by the way. I often talk about like, wow, this was a complicated episode. There was a lot to do. It's not super simple because they have to redecorate the living room and the dining room. But again, that's very minor. That's just going to the prop department and the set decorators and say, hey, at one point, we're going to change the living room to looking like the Stevens living room to looking more like inside of a palace. That is not a big deal at all. It's actually quite simple. You just get the truck, you go over there, you pick up the furniture, then you get, the drapes are a little bit of a bigger deal, but not that big of a deal. Then, set designers and decorators have to have a giant curtain rod because in this case, it goes, okay, this arrow, the draped rod covers the whole living room. These arrows, okay, so that was not on fire, but sometimes it's pretty amazing. That's not easy to do right there. We couldn't see where it was sticking, so I'm guessing there was probably a piece of cardboard or something there. I actually slowed this down 3 times because sometimes what they'll do is the arrow will actually come in on a wire slower, like just kind of like you would roll a ball down the hill, and they speed it up, and you can see, again, the actors are trying to be still, but you can kind of tell. But somehow they shot that in there. I don't know how they did it. I don't think someone could have did it like a dart. Someone must have just like binged it, and it stuck to a little piece of cardboard on the floor. Okay, here comes Hepzibah. And sometimes it sticks to the post on the arrows on the stairs and stuff. But that stuff is cool. I love when they do that stuff. Now, of course, here, obviously the set's not moving. They're just moving a camera back and forth like this on the tripod, and the actors are doing a very good job of pretending like they're moving. I don't know why they did that effect right there. They totally cheated. They must have I think that had to be a mistake because she didn't just pop in there. You know what I'm saying? Like the camera locked down and then boom, she's there, even with the fireworks and everything. It's a completely different shot. So I don't know what was up with that. And by the way, when they do wind with that, because there's a lot of wind in this episode, I think I may have mentioned this before. Don't think they just put up a couple of house fans. Try it. Put up a couple of house fans and stand in front of it, or not right in front of it, because again, it's off camera, and see how much it blows your hair and your clothes. It won't. They have to bring in giant fans of probably 5 feet tall, maybe a couple, to get that much wind. And if they were reaching the curtains in the back, they were even more. And when you have those kinds of fans flying around the set, there's a piece of dust or whatever, stuff gets in your eyes. Again, stuff that looks simple that just isn't really that simple. All right, let's talk about Jane Cannell. I love her. First of all, now that you see her, who else has she played in the run of Bewitched? Do you know? Do 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 do. Okay, I don't know if I can get them all. She was Mother Goose. She was Martha Washington. She was Queen Victoria. Is that it? That's all that's coming to my brain. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I know you guys know more than I do. But she's brilliant. Look how she's so good going in and out of this stuff. And again, the way she handles that scepter, that's what it's called, right? That a king or a queen hold. Um, why is she so good at that? Why is she so good at that? And I'm going to tell you a fun fact that you probably don't know about her. So Jane was and is first was is at this point and will be for decades after this. She didn't die until like in a 2000. I want to say 2007, somewhere in there. Um, Big Broadway actress. So just because I'm fortunate enough to have worked professionally in television, film, and stage, as in I'm SAG, AFTRA, and Equity, there is a difference. There is a undeniable difference between stage actors and TV and film actors. They're a completely different breed. Completely different breed. I could go on and on like that forever. For example, stage people are fun, TV and film people are weird. How about that? Do I seem slanted? Oh, I got to talk about that. Andorra just called her mother. Oh, great mother of us all. Anyway, there's just a huge difference between them. Stage people are just fun. Uh, Back to Agnes's interview, that controversial interview, at least to me, where she says they bring anybody in here just how they look and they don't have their lines memorized and all this stuff. All this stuff is true that would piss anybody off. It's just how you say it and how you deal with it. But of course, she talked about getting her start on stage, which I think is where she is so big and grand. And of course, during this time period, a lot of people got their start on stage, but a lot didn't. TV's been around for a while, and the younger ones, they just went right into it. But she is a stage. Jane is a stage actress, and you can just tell she's just good. Notice how they're going to cut right there. Why did they cut right there for the coat and dress to come down on wires? Because that's part of the permanent set. There's a bar there, so the marionettes couldn't get going it through. Weird thing for what it's worth. Okay, so all right, let me just go back to the story. I'm going to tell you something else about Jane, and we're almost through part one already. Holy crapola! All right, so Darrin wants to go to Salem. He's gone to Larry and said, he fought for an account. Larry said, you can have it. And then he goes to Larry and says, never mind, I don't want that account. We want to go on vacation. My wife has to go to Salem to visit family, and I want to go with her. So now it has gotten through the atmospheric continuum to Hepzibah that Darrin wants to go to what she calls, and I might as well talk about this now, their hallowed holy ground. I just think it was just not smart. She's not Queen Hepzibah, even though you see that in descriptions. I don't know that she's ever referred to as Queen. Maybe she is. But clearly, most of the time, she is referred to as the High Priestess Hepzibah. Now, keep in mind, we've had Queen Samantha and whoever that queen was before her and all these queens. Now, all of a sudden, there's a High Priestess. What's that all about? To me, it's almost as if they're like rubbing it in their faces. So, when you say mother, when Andorra calls her mother, that's an homage to the Catholic Church, to nunnery. When you say High Priestess, that's an homage to cult stuff. I know the Greek goddesses and all that had that stuff, but it's just like they're I don't know. It's just Bewitched was, and to this day, if you read my comments, if you read in the comments of some of my chats, people will pop in there and say they're all going to burn in hell. Witches are evil. Ugh. And you think it's bad now, or people saying that now? Imagine back then. And imagine when it first hit the air. It was huge. It was in the newspapers. There was picketing. There was protests. It's almost like we're here in season 7 now, the 7th year, and they're just rubbing it in the audience's face. She's the High Priestess. She's the mother of us all, and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know why they did that. If anybody knows, I find it fascinating. It's just stupid, It's almost like they wanted to piss people off on purpose. I could be wrong, but at the very least, where did High Priestess come from? They were always queen this whole time. They were always queen. Now they're High Priestess. All right. Here she's gonna feed the dogs. I'll bet those dogs are there because just for Liz to make her happy. Why does she have to have guard dogs by the throne? It's super cool. Don't get me wrong. It's brilliant. It just adds to it. But just Liz loved animals around, and I know for a fact. Bill told me they kind of did whatever they could, however much they could, to get animals on the show because she loved being around animals. Look, she's going to pick up that nasty leg of lamb with her hands. I'm not a big meat eater. I eat meat. I'll have a hot dog or a hamburger. Rarely am I going to eat a steak or something like that. And if I'm having a roast, see, it was just in her hands. Ooh, and she's not going to even wash them. That's gross. I don't know. I'll bet in the 60s it didn't gross, or 70s, it didn't gross anyone out. I think I'm a victim. Is that the word victim of my generation or the times? I don't know. Ugh. Yuck. Okay, so here we go when I was talking about props and set people. So they've redecorated. Now that might look like, wow, that's not a big deal, guys. They just went and loaded up a truck with this furniture and took the old furniture out, which they do all the time, right? When they bring in cars and everything. It's not a big deal. And they move that furniture around constantly to get shots because the camera has to go where the couch is. The camera has to go where the dining room table is. That a lot of that, the couch, for example, if you really look, is on wheels. So they're moving that stuff all around. Oh my gosh, it's over already. I'm so sorry. Did I say enough stuff? See, there's just so much to talk about. All right, well, that's part one. Fortunately, there's a part two, so I could say more stuff. I know what I'm going to leave for part two. There's something very unique about Jane Cannell. When I say very unique, very atypical. What is it? Do you know? Go ahead and Google it between now and then. You'll see. You'll go, really? I think. Anyway, I was like, really? In the next episode, she's with Cesar Romero, who I knew when I was in Hollywood. So that'll be fun to talk about. So that's that's Salem Saga number 1, part 1. Now next one we'll do part 2 in the next Bewitched chats. Okay. All right. I'm just going to end there because I just have too much to say and I'll just have to hold it. So in the meantime, keep the magic alive. Keep the magic in your heart. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
I never thought my heart could be had, but now I'm caught and I'm kinda glad to be